Kemi's vibeless. How do you solve a problem like Kemi? Not that she is a problem,
I think she is a problem.
I think she has problems.
Welcome back to another episode of The Division Bell. This week we're going to be talking about the Afghan data leak, the suspension of a number of Labour MPs, and what the political parties need to be focusing on over the summer recess. I'm Lizzy Buchan.
I'm Christian Calgie.
And this is The Division Bell. Probably the biggest story in Westminster this week has been this absolutely extraordinary revelation of a massive data leak of people in Afghanistan who were working with the British military, which was subject to a super-injunction which was lifted on Tuesday. Can you tell us a bit about the details of that? It is so crazy.
It's a really mad one because of the extent of the cover-up that the former Defence Secretary Ben Wallace has insisted wasn't a cover-up. But I think if you've used a super-injunction to hide information from the public for nearly 2 years, most people would describe it as such. So I wasn't personally privy to this story until it broke, and we were sitting in Downing Street for our lobby briefing at the time that the embargo was lifted, at the time the judge decided the story could be made public. So essentially what happened was that when Joe Biden pulled out of Afghanistan, we were scrabbling to try and not just get our troops out, but also protect the local Afghans who had helped our troops either as translators or as general staff or as chefs or whatever. Anyone who we were concerned the Taliban, as they were storming through Afghanistan to retake Kabul and take back over the country, might persecute for helping British troops. So we are trying to airlift out these staff, and a member of the military accidentally leaked the full list of the 18,000 Afghanistan that we were concerned about and were trying to get out of the country. It was leaked, and the government was terrified that not only would the 18,000 that were still in Afghanistan be targeted, but their family would be targeted. So basically, up to 100,000 people, we were concerned that this data leak would endanger. So we launched this enormous secret mission to extract people under this scheme. It's cost many hundreds of millions, about 400 million, but the final cost is expected to be 850 million, and an additional about 4,500 people have already arrived under the scheme. And the government, this is all under the previous Tory government, obviously, so it's not been much of an issue for Labour, but Labour, the Defence Secretary John Healey, basically on his first day was told about this, and he seemed to be dubious about whether the super-injunction was necessary. So they spent the last year having an independent review, and that review was submitted, and a judge went, no, this isn't necessary, so we lift the super-injunction, and that is where we are now. We've finally found out about it. I mean, it's an astonishing story, not just the incredible level of incompetence for which no one has been sacked, and I anticipate no one will be sacked, which in of itself is a scandal. The costs involved. We had Ben Wallace, the former Defence Secretary at the time, denying that it was a cover-up. He said he made no apology for it, but then we had Johnny Mercer, who was another defence minister, the Defence Minister for Veterans, basically saying it was the most, incompetent F-up he'd ever been privy to.
They've got a bit of previous, haven't they?
Yeah, they have.
But there is a big sort of Tory blame game going on, isn't there? Because Liz Truss was also getting involved and saying, I didn't know anything about it. And Ben Wallace was tweeting her saying, oh, Liz, yes, you did. It's
quite bad.
Unedifying.
For especially the right-wing Tories. Reform have been going absolutely studs up on this week. They particular using it as an opportunity to finally get a leg up on people like Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman, who have been positioning themselves, as the sort of competitors to reform on immigration, them saying you knew about a cover-up that was importing thousands of Afghan people into the country and you didn't do anything about it. How dare you?
But it does raise questions, doesn't it, about the secrecy of it, of the fact that there was a secret route for people to be brought in, and how that, and also a secret cost. Obviously, you've mentioned the hundreds of millions of pounds spent on that route, but I think the court papers suggest that the figure could, for all of it, could be in the billions.
Yes.
And so where was that money?
Yes.
Like, we
Exactly.
didn't know, like, how does that fit into, like, the government's spending plans?
Yes.
And obviously that raises questions about, are there other things that we don't know about? And I think we're at either that lobby briefing or another one afterwards, you get into this kind of bizarre situation where somebody was asking, are there any other super injunctions that we don't know about? And the PM spokesman was like, well, if there were, I wouldn't be able to tell you, because the nature
if I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Yeah.
For once, I don't have an easy answer to family, friends, online people I talk to who are like, well, what else is the government hiding? Because actually we can't say for certain there isn't anything. Well, Keir Starmer decided to prove to us once and for all before parliamentary recess just how much of a hard bastard he is by suspending a load of MPs yesterday. Lizzy, what on earth happened?
Yeah, I was really hoping we could just crawl through the last days before Parliament rises for recess next week. But no, sadly not. Labour can never quite leave it to sort of, without creating their own drama. So yesterday afternoon, 4 Labour MPs, so Neil Duncan-Jordan, Chris Hinchcliffe, Brian Leishman and Rachel Maskell were summoned, massive
names,
summoned into the Chief Whip's office for what we understand to be persistent breaches of party discipline. So 3 of them are 2024 intake, and then Rachel Maskell has been a Labour MP for much longer than that. So it was quite surprising in a way, because it's clearly linked in some way to the welfare rebellion, obviously, but all of them were critics of that policy, and Chris Hinchcliffe had also led a rebellion on a planning bill as well.
Yeah.
But at the time of the welfare vote, the number 10, the Prime Minister sort of said, okay, we're listening, we hear that there's big anger in the party. They clearly couldn't suspend everyone. And I'd sort of thought maybe they were just going to let it go.
Yes.
But clearly not.
And there were also 3 trade ambassadors, which is, to describe it as a low rung on the ministerial ladder is a bit of an understatement. But it's just a sort of role, isn't it? But they were sort of all... were they all ethnic minority women? Or at least 2 of them were. I mean, it's not a great look, is it? From Keir Starmer. And this morning... we're recording this on the Thursday. It appears like the Labour Party is once again on the brink of kicking out Diane Abbott.
Oh, goodness, yeah. This story has sort of reared its head again of her. She's given an interview, I think, to the BBC, basically saying that she didn't do anything wrong when she wrote a letter to the Observer in 2023 that saw her basically suggest that Jews and travellers is equivalent to sort of the prejudice they receive is equivalent to people with red hair.
Yes, and they don't experience racism all their lives. Unlike
as black
ethnic
people,
minority people, which Keir Starmer decried as, he said it was anti-Semitic at the time. She was suspended for a year. She was eventually let back in last minute before the election, and now she said, actually, no, I stand by it all. So it'll be very difficult for Labour not to suspend her, I would suggest.
It's a nightmare situation, because she's the mother of the house. She is a sort of iconic, like, Labour figure, a real trailblazer in the party and in politics in general. It's been a really tough few weeks for the party, and there had been a hope that recess is here, everyone can have a bit of a break, a bit of a reset, and come back in September and try and attack the second year and not repeat some of the mistakes of the first one. But I don't know, I feel like kicking a load of MPs out of the party, and then now a new row on Diane Abbott just feels like this is perhaps not where they wanted to be.
Especially the week after Zara Sultana flounces out to join a party that didn't exist, but may also be a party with Jeremy Corbyn. And according to one poll this week, which sort of gave the respondents the option of this new Corbyn-Sultana party, both them and the Labour Party are already on level pegging at about 15%. If this Corbyn party materialises, Diane Abbott, very, very pro-Corbyn back in the day, very close personally with him, and a lot of these hard left MPs that have just been booted out. It does seem Starmer's playing with fire here, and not from a particular position of strength. It could all backfire.
I would be surprised if all of these people necessarily did move to that sort of thing. Some of them may just sit on the backbenches for now and hope that they'll be readmitted, like a number of the MPs who were suspended last summer for voting with the SNP on the two-child benefit cap. A number of them were readmitted, so they may hope that is what's going to happen to them. But it hasn't helped relations between Number 10 and the kind of PLP, the Parliamentary Labour Party. You know, a lot of people I spoke to yesterday were pretty angry, feeling like that their rebellion on welfare was not about trying to destabilise the PM or whatever. It was about something a deeply held belief that was really important to their politics, that they felt was a Labour belief and was important to their constituents. So that some of them feel that, you know, kicking out people for expressing that kind of opinion is a bit heavy-handed.
And of course, Tony Blair never kicked out Jeremy Corbyn.
No,
he was strong enough to have people like him and John McDonnell on his backbenches voting against nearly everything they put forward.
Yeah, Corbyn rebelled hundreds of times.
Literally, yeah.
I mean, I was talking to somebody yesterday who worked in Downing Street under New Labour, and they were saying, you know, Blair and Brown would, if somebody rebelled, they'd be on the phone being like, how can we make this work? Whereas Starmer's sort of stance is different, is more, I thought they were going to try and be more conciliatory. He's been having more meetings with MPs. He's been trying to do all this outreach, but they clearly decided that they needed to make some sort of show of strength yesterday. And I don't know. I mean, I think on the other hand, there are a lot of people in the party who are really frustrated with the rebels, who are really angry about the fact that it's destabilised the government in some ways. I mean, I spoke to a minister yesterday who, I don't know if you're going to have to bleep this out, but was saying, you know, you vote against the government, you fuck around and find out. Like, that is what some people think. Summer recess, fast approaching. We've got...
Thank God.
I think that everyone I see, like whatever party, government, journalist is wandering around Westminster just saying we're crawling now.
We're nearly there.
Yeah, so next week we've got a couple of days and then MPs will go back to their constituencies for the long 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think it's like school term, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they claim they still work.
They're in their constituencies doing hard work.
Stuff.
Yeah. But it's also an opportunity for everyone to have a bit of a break, and for, I think, the government, for all the parties to have a bit of a reflection on the last year and think about what they're going to do differently next year. I think this is a moment, for everyone to have a think about what they're going to do. What do you think the government need to focus on?
They've got to come up with a narrative. And I know, but I've no faith they will, because everyone's been telling Starmer that he needs to have a story to tell since he was elected 5 years ago, and he's not managed it yet. He's such a strategist, and he needs to have a big picture vision about where he wants to take the country, how he's going to communicate better. And I do think that requires a significant internal reshuffle of Number 10 staff in the comms team, in the press team, the strategy team, and the sort of the PPS, how he's communicating and liaising with backbenchers. I don't know. will know more than I do in terms of cabinet reshuffle, but I think that would be a bit of a distraction at this point. I don't think it's wholly necessary, but I think number 10 needs better people in it.
I think you're right about cabinet reshuffle. I don't think that would be helpful at this point. It would just create more kind of tension and dissent. And actually, I think in a way they need to just really nail down what the priorities are and really go for it and sort of stop trying to kind of be all things to all men and trying to do so much, and maybe just focus a bit more on, whatever the top things they think they need to focus on. I also think, and I don't quite know the answer to this, but I think they need to start rolling the pitch for the budget. I interviewed Rachel Reeves on Monday in Wigan, and she was saying that the fiscal rules still stand, her commitment not to borrow for day-to-day spending being a key one, and also that her commitment on not raising taxes on working people stands, so VAT, income tax, national insurance. But it's not clear where she does go, and I think that actually the public are able to understand that the situation is that the finances are tight. They're unable to understand that there's just no loads of money around. So I think that maybe they need to just be a bit more frank about what the trade-offs are. Rachel Reeves has got to find billions of pounds to make up the shortfall after the U-turns on welfare and also the winter fuel allowance. So she's going to have to find that somewhere. And I don't think they need to be as gloomy as they were last year, but I think maybe they just need to be a bit franker, because otherwise we're going to have a whole summer of everyone being like, what's a working person?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's really constructive.
No, I think it's a very good point. And also, if it were up to me, I'd say no more new announcements. Use the summer to highlight what you've already done, because I think government, this isn't a Labour thing. I think governments announce too much stuff every day. No one ever has any time to actually tune into what's being announced. And the moment they've done something big, like I know you reported, was it last weekend, the weekend before, this sort of return to a form of sure start. That's sort of big,
yeah.
But no one noticed it because it was on the same day as that footballer's funeral. And I think it would be better off to start going over and saying, this is what we've achieved. This is, we're starting to maybe start to roll it out, free breakfast clubs and all the rest of it. Just sort of try and underline, and dig in.
We're in rare agreement.
We are. Talking of people not hearing things, Kemi Badenoch, the Conservatives. How do you solve a problem like Kemi? Not that she is a problem,
I think she is a problem.
I think she has problems. I don't think it's necessarily her. The first thing I think she needs to do is remind the party that no one listens to them, and that's not a personal thing.
No, it's just opposition.
That's being, the smallest you've ever been in opposition in history. It will take years for people to start being receptive. So of course the polls aren't moving. I do think there's capacity for a shadow cabinet reshuffle. I think there's a number of people that aren't performing. I'd tell you their names, but I can't remember them.
I was going to say, I think anyone in the public knows who's in the shadow cabinet, apart from like a couple of people.
Yeah, there's some people. I mean, I think
like Chris Philp is out there a lot.
Chris Philp, Jenrick. I think Priti Patel's an issue for her.
Do you think?
Because of her association with the Boris wave of mass immigration, and I think that's a real problem for the Conservatives. I personally like Priti. And she's been doing some good stuff on Chagos, but that is an albatross over the Conservative Party's head, and to have her so prominent. And also, I think there's some other people, names listeners probably won't have heard of, but if they were promoted, are doing a very good job. People like Neil O'Brien, Nick Timothy, Katie Lamb, these sort of new 2024 MPs who there's frankly no point waiting around. They're great, they're active, they're fresh voices, and there's lots of spots on the shadow cabinet front bench that aren't being utilised properly.
It just seems to me like Kemi Badenoch is just chasing reform and announcing like random policies that are just not very like retail, like not very consumery.
Yes, that's
talking about the ECHR. It's like, is that really going to help you?
You're absolutely right. Kemi's biggest problem is that she is not retail.
Yeah.
And I still say that it took me the entirety of the Tory leadership election to understand that what she was actually promising, which wasn't much, but it was very similar to what Robert Jenrick was promising, but in just much less, understandable language.
He's a much better salesman on that.
He is. So I think Kemi needs. Kemi's volubulous with the public. Do you know, with people with like the Lib Dems, the Greens, they probably couldn't tell you a specific policy, but they sort of understand where they are on issues about nationalisation and tax and Europe. And Kemi does need to start getting more retail and filling in the blanks more quickly, and she can't wait that long because, as we're talking about reform, they're still at 30% in the polls. They're still leading in the polls. So what does Nigel Farage need to do? They
have captured the public mood in quite a lot of places. I think there's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how much scrutiny is applied to the things that they're promising and going forward, both from the media and the public. Because Farage at the moment is sort of just saying stuff and reopening coal mines and stuff like that, you know, that he hasn't really got the numbers for, which is sort of okay for now, but that won't hold if they really want to win an election. So I think if I was advising Farage, I think I would sort of suggest that they've made quite a lot of commitments, maybe don't make loads more, and just kind of try and hammer home the things that they're doing that are not migration. Obviously, you stick with that, but there are other things, like are there other ways to, you know, maybe they want to talk about net zero or the cost of living crisis and things like that. Like if you're actually trying to build like, a big electoral coalition, that would be the kind of thing you need to do. But you can't have that for free, Farage.
And it will be big. It will be a big summer. It will probably be a record-setting summer in terms of small boat crossings. Yeah. So I think actually Reform may end the summer a few points higher in the polls if we have weeks more of people coming over. And the other thing I'd say is prepare a proper party conference, because last year it was just a load of speeches. And I think the sign of a healthy party is one that has these sort of fringe debates. They allow members to have their say. They have expert panels. They need to have a bit more of that. And we're yet to hear whether Reform will be doing that. Have you got any thoughts on Ed Davey? Because I don't.
I actually don't have loads.
No? Brilliant. Right, we'll end it there.
Wait. That's not fair. I think the Lib Dems need to find a way to capitalise on the fact that they have so many MPs. Like, they're actually a really big party, but they're not getting a lot
from two of them.
Yeah, they're not getting a lot of attention. And I think there is a bit of frustration in Lib Dem ranks about that Reform, who have only 5 MPs, and I can't remember how many MPs.
4.
Oh,
4?
God. Every week now, I get this wrong.
Might be 3. We've been in this podcast studio for an hour now.
Yeah, someone's probably gone. They have a handful of MPs, whereas like the Lib Dems have dozens of MPs. Yeah,
2 or something.
So they're they're the third party in terms of size, but they're not getting cut through like that. So I think they need to perhaps find a way to get their message across in public, to the public a bit more, and to try and get some wins, in terms of Parliament and on policy and that sort of thing. So I think that is something they need to focus on, and also, perhaps trying to capitalise on discontent on the Labour left. The Greens are obviously going to try and are trying to do that, but the Lib Dems can too, and the Lib Dems can also pick up Tories, left of centre Tories who don't want to go sort of reform light.
Late trade shoppers.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's lots that they can do.
They're going to have a busy old summer objecting to planning applications, I'm sure. Thank you very much for watching The Division Bell. As ever, follow us on socials and see you again next time.